Welcome to the Soul Patch Podcast, the podcast where three American expats explore different topics related to living and working in South Korea. With a combined 50 years of living experience in Asia, there are plenty of stories to tell. So, pop in your AirPods and make yourself comfortable. It's time for the Soul Patch Podcast.
Let's open, Jack. Let's tell the audience here. Take us through the bathtub incident.
Okay. So allegedly, now this is, I'm going to be a little bit careful with my my words here because I don't want to commit libel or slander or anything against anybody. So I'm not going to mention the university, and there are no names being mentioned, but allegedly the students were taking a university class, an English class, I believe. And
was it an English class? I thought I for some reason I got the impression that it was a Korean one, but I could very much be wrong.
My understanding is that let me just read the
was it a foreign?
It wasn't a foreign professor, I don't think, unless it's Kyopo.
I didn't get that impression.
I saw a photo.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I just assumed that it was a
oh, Jack, you just always think it's the foreigners who are getting in trouble.
Like, look at that. Look how biased I am. I just thought it just seemed like a foreigner would be doing that, but I of course.
All right. So what did he do?
Like a foreigner.
What was the
yeah? So apparently he was teaching his class on Zoom while simultaneously taking a bath, and he accidentally turned on the video in the Zoom. And so the students got a there was no I don't think there was any like full frontal or anything like that. It wasn't a Jeffrey Toobin. Do you guys know Jeffrey Toobin, the CNN? No. Oh, he got fired from the New York Times, or I believe, for having a wank on a Zoom chat meeting. And the CNN didn't fire him, but they gave him a little suspension, and then he's back on CNN again. So even that won't get you fired, which is surprising.
Good to know.
He did get fired from the Times, though, I believe. If it's the New York Times, I may be wrong about the paper, but he was worked for a paper writer and got fired from that job.
Okay.
Anyway,
so this fellow wasn't doing anything perverted. Like, he was just in the tub.
He was just in the tub, but I mean, do you think is that like I mean, how close to the line is that? I mean, is that cross the line?
It's terribly unprofessional, but I think it's kind of funny. I don't know. I think it's just one of these not the Onion like articles. Like, can you really believe this? Like, I just imagine the dude sitting back. He's got rubber ducky, a bottle of wine, and he's just like, and today, students, we're gonna talk about Theorem's equation. And he's just hanging back.
The
students don't know.
Candles burning or whatever. It was
right. I don't think he's innocent. I think he's guilty in what he did, but I don't think there's any nefarious motives there.
All right. So his defense in the article, I read two different articles. They all kind of quoted the same students they interviewed. In his defense, because he was accused of doing this many times.
Right. They heard splashing before.
Yeah. Right? The students are like, this is not the first time. They're like, this guy, that our teacher's voice is always echoing, and there's a lot of splashing in this lecture normally. Yeah. So his defense, he denies that this was a serial event. He says this was the first time and only time he was ever in a bathtub while lecturing, and he did it because he got the COVID shot and it gave him a fever and he was cooling down. He's such a diligent teacher. He was so diligent.
I'm not even going to cancel the class. I'm just going to get in this ice bath. Yeah, bring my fever down and still teach at the same time.
Light some candles.
Nearly, yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's.
I mean, that would be really easy to check if that story is true by when he got his shot. The date should be easy to check.
Oh, is that the best defense? Here's what I
No,
think. Here's what I
it's
think.
not.
I think there's two possibilities. One, I mean, everybody's going to jump to like the pervert thing. I don't think so. Could be the case that he gets off on that or something. Who knows? I don't think.
Right.
I don't think so. I think maybe more likely this is a teacher that either has a funny sense of humor and just like the idea of sitting in a bathtub while lecturing, like sticking it to the man kind of thing.
Right.
Or it's like that, but like times two. Maybe this is a teacher that like is frustrated with his compensation. So like, like maybe his wages have been stagnant or something, or like he didn't get promoted. He didn't get
he didn't get like a chair or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so like, he's like ticked off, he's like, you know what? I'm just doing this from the bathtub. From here on out, splashy time. Me and Mr. Rubbery Duck for the whole time. That's what you guys are gonna get. I don't even care if my voice echoes, because he's got to know his voice is echoing. He's got to know, like,
yeah, how can you not?
But there's something about people like that are willing to play so close to the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you press the wrong button, you might show your dingling to, an entire classroom of people, and you don't come back from that. Like there's no, you know what I mean? Like once you cross that threshold, that's like, so anyone that's like that risky, that kind of risky behavior, those kind of people scare the crap out of me. Because I wonder, like, in what other aspects of their life are they just everything is just like right to the edge, but I mean, I can't say for sure that's this person. I'm projecting a lot onto this person, but
maybe that's where you could start the investigation. Like you can try to suss this out, like find his Facebook profile and look at his activities. Like, is this guy into like rock climbing and like skydiving, like staring at the sun? Is that like his like main activities?
Wait, I like rock climbing and skydiving. Why does that go with staring at the sun?
I don't know. I was just
like staring at an eclipse or something. He's like, I'm not doing the hole in the paper thing, man. I'm just gonna look right at it. I mean, but it's a weird thing to think, like you choose a career that's so kind of pedestrian, like teaching in a university, and you're like, how can I up the ante on this? Like, how can I make this high stakes, man? I'm gonna get naked, I'm gonna jump in a tub, and I'm gonna just maybe press the video button. To me, it's like so many things had to go wrong for that to happen. But it's so hilarious.
It would have been so easy to just put a sticky note over his camera on his laptop.
That's my point, man.
Never could have happened.
But when you're living on the edge, man, there's nothing exciting about it.
That's a good point. There has to be the risk of it.
I bet this guy. I bet he drives like a maniac. Like, I can just see.
Now comes the accusations.
So.
It probably started like his first couple semesters online. He was in his coffee cup, he had like a whiskey Coke instead for the first couple, and then it just kept getting like a little bit more like how far can I take this? Until he's in the bathtub.
Now it's like just straight bourbon and a bubble bath,
Maybe he like lost a bet with some friends or something. Like,
that's the other thing I thought too. Like, there's got to be like an audience here, like maybe it's like his family, his wife thinks it's funny. Like he's having a go at it. He's like, he's a ham, he's a goofy guy, and he's making his kids crack up. He's like, yeah, dad teaches from the bathtub. Like there's got to be, maybe there's something like this.
How many do you think like in the world of Zoom in the last like 2 years, how much like accidental nudity do you think there has been in, what I mean? Like
too much.
There has to have been like some instances of that, right? Like I just can't imagine that's not happening. But I did read something really funny on Reddit. Was there was a university class. In America, a teacher was teaching university class on Zoom, and one of the male students didn't have a shirt on. He's just like shirtless, and the teacher said, "Put your shirt on, so or turn your camera off." And so he turned his camera off, and then in place of his video was a picture of him without his shirt on. That's kind of that's a pretty alpha move right there, like just Yeah, you got to almost respect that, like that.
The effort, you got to respect the effort. I've had some incidences that definitely were not like classroom behavior in my Zoom experiences. I've especially with my Zoom classes where I've had many students together, not like the one-on-one like tutoring stuff. That's been pretty casual, actually. I've had a lot of students that show up and like maybe they're drinking, a coffee or maybe even eating something, not too common. A lot of students in tutoring, well, you guys have probably seen it, like doing one-to-one, students will show up because they don't show up, they're in their bedroom, they're still wearing their PJs.
Yeah.
I don't really care, because even in my classroom that might happen occasionally. It's college, man. But I had
Korea, not so much though. That's America.
Yeah, it's more an American thing, but it's totally acceptable, right? You can go to class in PJs. Who cares?
Why not?
But I had a student that while we're talking, she pulls out a vape and she starts vaping. And I didn't shut it down because I just didn't have the moment for it. But it was kind of like, are you for real? You're smoking in my class, like 2021? I don't know. Seemed a little bit over the line.
I've had a student smoke a regular cigarette in class, and on Zoom, and I was like, I didn't do the, like, I'm not going to call him out or and humiliate this person in front of a crowd of people, but I did privately send a chat, just like asking, are you smoking? Because I wasn't sure, is that a pen or is that a cigarette? And then when I saw the smoke, I was like, I just said, not cool. And I just left it there, like that cool. Was so
not cool, bro.
Yeah, not cool, bro. And because I did feel like that did cross, like there's gotta be like an etiquette line, but it's the line is somewhere between taking a bath, and like that's probably too far, and smoking a cigarette, that might be a little bit over the line. The bath might be a farther over the line than smoking a cigarette. But showing up in PJs, I know there are some professors that tell the students, like, you can't wear pajamas. You gotta treat it like a classroom. So you gotta wake up and you gotta at least put on like a dress shirt or something. But I keep it pretty casual in my Zoom class. So like you said, Ryan, I don't mind if they're wearing like, Cookie Monster PJs or whatever.
Yeah, I've drawn the line sometimes. Like what was it, a couple semesters back, I taught the speech course, the public speaking elective. Mm-hmm. And so for this, and in my current communications class, I usually have the students doing public speeches. And for these videos that they have to submit, or if it's going to be live, either way, they have to be like on a stage is the concept. So we want to see, they're practicing body language and stuff, the best we can do with, Zoom and cameras and shit.
Sure.
So I have them, the instruction is that they have to be like toe to head. You have to have enough space. So find a space that's big enough where you can back up from your camera. You have to plan this. And I'm used to it now, but the first time I did it, it cracked me up because like, it's Korea. So like 90% of the people are barefoot.
Yeah.
They're in their house.
It's just kind of funny. Everybody's like in their bedroom and they all get dressed up. That was also part of this presentation is you can't wear PJs. So I draw the line there. You have to look presentable.
As if you were giving a speech, right? Like you're
right. Make choices that include like the way you present yourself. Okay. So that includes what you're going to put on your body, because that's how you're communicating to the audience. So you get people, they're all dressed up, but they're barefoot. Yeah.
It's weird, but it makes sense. I mean, it's like, it's not.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Just let it go. So now that's what my speeches look like now. It's kind of a funny archive.
All right. Well, anyway, my segue was supposed to be, I thought it was I don't know why I assumed that guy was a foreigner, but I just in my mind pictured like a kind of goofy, like American.
I'm really glad he's not a foreigner.
It had to be an American, right? It had to be an American.
I know. Well,
they won.
Well, that's
anytime
what
something
kind of
like
takes
this
me
goes wrong, it's I'm just so glad that they're not a foreigner, because it immediately sets that bad precedent. I mean, actually, speaking of like foreigners and stuff, have you guys seen a lot of the news about Halloween recently?
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up next, actually. So yeah.
That's yeah. There's been so much stuff in Halloween. A lot of the media is like, if there's going to be a COVID outbreak, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad because everybody's going to Itaewon to party, and Itaewon is, you know, like the foreign part of town, and so all the media is like, it's the foreigners who are going to be spreading COVID because of Halloween. And if anyone's been not Halloween, if anyone's been to Itaewon in the past decade, you would know that it's far more Korean people that go to Itaewon these days than it is foreigners. And so that's a ridiculous thing to say.
I mean, I would really recommend, if you guys want to read a good article about this, David Tizard, again, in the Korea Times, wrote one. His article is Foreigners, Halloween, and Xenophobia. And so kind of leading up to Halloween on the Korean news. Now, I believe he's this columnist. He's also he speaks Korean fluently. He's kind of like you, Kevin. Like
his Korean's, I assume his Korean is much better than mine is.
He might be. I'm not sure. I think his level. He might be able to like sit and watch the news and stuff. And so I think leading.
He's mentioned in one of his articles. I've seen it where he says he lectures in Korean.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he's okay.
He's a step or two above. Above where I am.
You guys are both like. It's both, to me, yours is like a superpower and so is his. Like, it's all the same from my perspective, you know what I mean?
Sure, okay.
But yeah, he might be like a 747 and you're a twin engine, but either way, something you're like flying through the sky. So but in the article he was talking about like kind of leading up to Halloween, like you said, there was a lot of like concern from like the Korean public that, that it kind of, the narrative was these foreigners are going to go out there on Halloween and they're going to spread COVID. And then that's in these Facebook groups, if you look at all the pictures of Halloween, there's hardly any, there's some foreigners mixed in there. But like you said, I think young Korean people have really taken to Halloween. Like they really enjoy it.
And so, just Itaewon in general. Itaewon has changed its demographics a ton in the past, bunch of years. Yeah, it used to be like mostly foreigners. Like when I first got here 15 years ago, it was like mostly, because it was mostly soldiers and things. At that point it was a lot of Americans, but not anymore.
You gotta also, just to play devil's advocate, because I agree with what you guys are saying, but I suppose we should also consider where some of these stereotypes come from. It's not just like, I don't think it's only like blanket xenophobia. I think when I came to Korea, when I came to Chunong and I started working at Chunong, I didn't have some like high and mighty opinion of myself or anything like this. I had a job. I'm going to be a teacher. I was going to be a professor. That's the title they were giving me. I understood that it wasn't the same as other like tenured professors, but I felt a sense of like, like you want to be, you're representing your country when you're abroad, right? You just, I don't know. I was a little frustrated with a lot of the environment that was around me among teachers in general and foreigners in general. There's a lot of asinine behavior. I know teachers who have gone to classes, not at university, not at our schools, but like Hogwons. They've gone to classes hungover, drunk, and they think it's funny. I mean, you wouldn't do that back home. That wouldn't be like if I was working at elementary school and my colleague was like, "Hey, I'm drunk today," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm reporting your ass. Like, this is insane." Or, "Hey, do you have a problem? Like, what's going on?" So I think some of the stereotyping does have a little bit of validity.
It has a little bit of validity.
Stories.
Unfortunately, I think I helped feed into some of that stereotype, with my, as a, in my 20s here, that idea, like when you come here and you meet some of the other people that you teach with, and like, dude, Korea's, you can get hammered every night in Korea. It's all good. That kind of, it's like, but it's not, it's not right. It's not the way it should be. Like you said, in America, you'd either have to get some help or you'd get fired. Like, it's not sustainable,
There's like a greater percentage of people here not taking their careers as seriously because they don't see it as something that they're ever going to be held responsible for. It's not going to be on their resume. It's not part of their career path. They're here as a gap year. They're in their young 20-year-old. They want to save up
Phi Beta Delta part 2. You know what I mean? Like it's not over yet. So
I feel like that's I'm still in the Itaewon vicinity. I don't get over there as much anymore because I'm old.
Right.
But that's a fact. I'm 40, so that's the thing.
The allure of Halloween is not exactly the same when you're 43 as it was when you're 27.
Yeah, it's just not. But I do go to that area regularly, and I just don't see that type of foreigner rowdiness that used to permeate the area. I feel like it's just dialed back a lot.
One reason might be the type of foreigners that used to be in the area versus the type of foreigners that are still around.
That's kind of what I was leading to, right? Like there's a different demographic, right?
Yeah, there's a big group of foreigners that have been moved to other areas of the city.
Also, they're terrorizing their neighborhoods.
Well, possibly, but yeah, I mean, just the everyone that was in that Yongsan area, they don't live in that Yongsan area anymore. That's been closed down, right? So they're all somewhere else.
Yeah, and the base has really shifted, right? I mean, during even before Trump took office, or no, was it during? No, it was during Trump's first year. Was it 2016? When was it the base? We were at like 60,000 servicemen, and then like it dropped to 30,000. It was really dramatic. I feel like that was like 1 year.
Gosh,
I was already out of that neighborhood, so I don't.
Yeah, I know. I remember they're talking about always moving the base from Yongsan down to Humphreys, where I am in Pyeongtaek. But they've been saying that for more than 10 years, 15 years since I've.
There was also one of my friends. A couple of my friends were teaching at public high schools, and they quit or retired or whatever, or were like laid off because, again, don't quote me on this, but there was the way I remember it, there was a law passed or something saying that the high schools didn't want or couldn't have foreign teachers. They basically kicked them out.
Mm-hmm.
So, or maybe it was public elementary schools, the high schools could have them. It was one or the other. I feel like it was high schools, and they said, no, we just want native bilingual teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty big group of people.
Yeah.
Also, and I don't need to talk crap about people in general. That wasn't my point. I was just saying, I feel like there's been a sea change.
No, there definitely has been. And I don't think that I think if you start teaching at a Hagwon now, my sense is, this is just from living here, is that people take it more seriously now, and that their tolerance for like bullshit is less than what it was 15 20 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like 15 20 years ago they were just happy to have a native speaker. I just think like the job opportunity like it's spread. Word of mouth is like, oh, a lot more people are vying for these positions, so they're able to ask more of the applicants than maybe they used to. It used to be, I think
Korea isn't it isn't the Wild West that it used to be, and it's kind of funny because I mean, when I got here in 2007, it wasn't really the Wild West still, but mm-hmm. it definitely was a bit more wild. It was easier for just about anybody to get any type of job here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember hearing stories of people who had been here, 5-10 years before me, and they were like, "Oh, dude, back in the late 90s, this place was, it was just crazy because it wasn't that long ago." But Korea has just continues to change so rapidly, in the past 30 years, that even, you know, in the early to late, you know, 2000, the aughts, Korea was felt a lot more wild. Like anybody could come and do anything, and it really was that liminal year of people just like, let's go to Korea, get crazy, and bounce out. And now Korea is a little bit more real, for lack of a better word.
I think in 2002, 20 years ago, you could come here and work for a year and not really teach for a year. Like you're in the classroom, but you're not really teaching. You know what I mean? You're just kind of you're playing the role of a foreigner, and it's it looks like a school with a foreign teacher, but there were no real requirements of teaching. Mostly just like talk to the students and make sure they have fun, so you kind of just listen to a song or whatever, play hangman and all that kind of stuff that you've heard about. But it feels like it has definitely changed. Like there are more resources, there's more attention being paid to, like, what kind of education. Even if even if the foreigner coming here is not a trained teacher, you will learn some teaching skills now. They're gonna train you.
It's much harder to get proper jobs now in Korea than it was a bunch of years ago. I mean, that's one of the reasons I came to Korea as opposed to Japan or China at the time, is because I wanted to get a uni job, and I knew that in Japan at the time it was pretty hard to get a uni job, whereas in Korea at the time it wasn't that bad. Now it's hard to get a proper job in Korea, and so now I'm holding on to the one I have. But at the time it was easier, and it was the same for any job. If it was relatively easy to get a uni job, imagine how easy it was to get a Hagwon job.
Yeah, when not too long ago, as you guys know, I was the coordinator for our department, and I collected resumes during that period quite a bit. Our department doesn't have much turnover. That period there was a bit of churn, and I was surprised at what doesn't make the cut. Not really surprised. I mean, it makes sense, but basically you had to have a very relative background. Looking at some of the professors that we worked with starting in the inception of our department, when Kevin and I came over, I know some of those professors, their master's degrees are not in education, they're not in communications, they're not in English, they're not in lit. They don't have a real relative background to the job. It's just, oh, you have a higher degree, you seem competent, you can have an interview. That was kicked out. So there was people that we were working with that could not apply at that point, is what I'm saying. Like they wouldn't be valid applicants.
They got grandfathered in because they came during like I said, during that early period. Like if you just had a master's degree, you could teach at the university. It doesn't matter if your master's degree was engineering. Yeah, engineering. I knew someone that had an engineering degree that was teaching English, and she was a very good teacher, very popular.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so the funny thing is, like they're actually like performatively they're fine, but it's just like now that you have more, I guess that when you have it's supply and demand, right? There's more supply, you get to be pickier. And back 20 years ago, it was just like the demand was insatiable. We just need more teachers. And so people were just coming in. And but everywhere I've lived, like I've always heard that like the Wild West was always like 5 years before you got here. You know what I mean? Like when I went to Thailand, it's like, man, you should have been here like 5 years ago. This place was crazy. Now it sucks, And it's probably like that's the storyline that I bet there are people right now that are coming here in 2021 and be like, dude, you should have been here in 2018, man. It was just off the hook, but now it sucks. It's like that's it's probably forever
hipster attitude about everything.
Yeah, you always miss it, but,
Yeah.
I like I want to just read a quote from the article, because I feel like this is what we were kind of pointing towards is in his article. He says, the problem we seem to have is that various sides of the conversation are not listening to each other. It's not political or cultural polarization in the same way that your auntie has become a redneck conservative and your nephew is a critical race theory advocate. So like MAGA in America. Instead, what we have is linguistic polarization. He says that he mentions that. He says it's Korean people talking to other Korean people about foreigners, and foreigners talking to other foreigners about Korean people. And it's that linguistic separation kind of breeds a lot of the stereotypes, right? Or exacerbates the stereotypes. And I think that's a really interesting point that he makes, because I mean, Kevin, you probably exist in that space somewhat more than I do, because I'm, I talk to my wife, but whatever she tells me, that's kind of what I believe, like but I'm not experiencing it linguistically, because I can't communicate with Korean people. So I'm just wondering if does that kind of ring true for you guys, like what he says? And
yeah,
I
it could make sense.
Yeah,
I would think there's definitely those bubbles with you're talking about like the conversation bubbles with the linguistic gap in the middle, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah, like for example, the Halloween, it's Korean people talking to other Korean people about foreigners loving to celebrate Halloween, but they're going to spread a bunch of COVID, and it's like nobody happened to mention that. Oh, it's not like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like but it's just kind of like in that bubble. It's just like, well, that's how I know Itaewon as the foreigner place. Foreigners brought Halloween here, so.
Yeah.
And then we also, in the same respect, I think, kind of like when we talk to each other, we make a lot of kind of declarations or whatever about, like, Korean people without actually talking to Korean people. And so
yeah, I suppose you could say, I think it's a salient point. Like, could we say the same sort of bubbles, echo chambers exist everywhere, right? I mean, it's 2021. It's the era of echo chambers. So that's nothing new. If you have a Facebook account or any social networking account, you're going to have your feed, and it's going to be, well, this is a really boring. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could see that existing because it exists everywhere. But then you add in one extra layer, which is the linguistic gap, and the fact that Korea, I don't want to call it a segregated country because it's such a charged word, but
homogenous maybe, or is that's still maybe a little too?
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound absolutely negative, but there is an us and them here that's very, very strong. I mean, how can we say this? I mean, how can I even say this? I come from America where, like, we're trying to pride ourselves on the opposite. But, and I mean, there are plenty of efforts for integrating, business loans for foreigners, and, trying to get, I'm not trying to make this sound like a negative thing. I'm just trying to say that I think that in addition to the usual echo chambers that we have in all facets of existence here in 2021, I think the linguistic divide is another layer on top of that would cause these echo chambers to be even more isolated.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's talking about. And he mentions that, he says, I think his prescription for this is that it might take a little work from the foreign community to actually learn some Korean to be able to, like, kind of meet our, because we're guests, essentially in this country, and to meet our hosts halfway. Whereas I feel like there is a certain resistance, and in my case, it's not resistance, it's just laziness, but that is a form of resistance in a way. I think is just kind of like, a capitulation, right? I'm just not gonna learn it. I'm not gonna prioritize this.
But I would love to do a survey of foreigners living here in Korea, because I get the feeling that foreigners, the people who are coming to Korea in the last 5 or 10 years, like the people who have been here shorter amount of time, and people tend to be younger. I think the amount of people that are coming here now who are taking Korean lessons is higher than it used to be.
It feels true, right? Too. Anecdotally, I feel like that does feel true. Yeah.
And I don't know that for a fact, but like when I do meet younger foreigners who've been here just a couple of years, like I worked at a Hagwon, just a part-time job last year summer, And quite a few of the people that were there had people like they're Korean. There was one girl who was in the classroom next to me, and her Korean was pretty decent for someone who'd only been here for a year. Like she was properly studying, like she was working at it, and that was her Korean was way better than mine was at 1 year in, like for sure. And there was a couple of other people I was talking to as well around that seemed to have some more interest in the language and in the culture. Now I could be wrong. This is just an impression because I don't have that many young friends who've only been here a short amount of time. Like I'm in a very like I talk to you guys and we've all been here the same amount of time. But the few people that I do meet who've been here less amount of time than us, who are newer, it seems that they're taking more Korean than people were when we were new here.
Yeah, and I think there's like, well, one, people's effort that could be coming from anything. One, there's more like K culture going out. There's plenty of
that's true. Yeah,
plenty of people are way more excited about just Korea as a culture in general when they're coming here, I think. Also, we just talked about kind of the inflation of resume inflation, requirements, things like that. If you want to get ahead here, learning the language, I mean, duh, it's going to give you an edge.
Right.
But I think to Jack's point about meeting Koreans halfway and trying to bridge that linguistic divide, I think that's not something that I don't know if that's like a social responsibility everybody has to meet. When I first came to Korea, I had a pretty big group of people I kind of roamed around with, and the majority of them took learning language pretty seriously. And I had just arrived and I was trying to put my best foot forward. And I had one of my friends in the group, he had been here longer than you, Jack. He's a long time. Yeah. Right. And yeah, legendary.
I mean, my shame runs so deep that I can't speak.
Well, no, his language skill, I mean, he spoke Korean fairly well, I guess. I mean, at the time I couldn't have told you because I did not speak very well at that time. And at all. And he saw me putting an effort and he was like, hey, just a heads up, you don't have to do this. You don't have to. It's not a responsibility. You have, I think it is a responsibility if you want to engage in the conversation with other foreigners or Koreans that are critical of foreigners, and you want to criticize that criticism. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you want to have a valid opinion about that, you got to be working towards engagement. I really get frustrated with like groups of foreigners bitching about Korea, not because Korea is wonderful and perfect, but because it's like, what do you really know? What do you really?
Because it's from that one bubble that never. Yeah. It's like a Venn diagram that the two circles never meet. There's no.
If I meet a guy that's a foreigner and they're just bitching about Korea, and it's like, oh, do you speak Korean? How many Korean friends have you like tried to meet? Have you ever done a language exchange? Like, and they're like 0, 0, 0. I'm like, shut up. Like, I mean, maybe your opinion is valid, but it's like not your opinion, but the opinion could be valid, but you can't make it valid because your opinion doesn't count.
But a guy like a foreigner, like an American guy that lived here for 20 years, that's totally fluent and then just totally black pilled and is just bitching in a bar, I'd listen to that guy all night. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'd be like,
yeah, that's a wealth of knowledge.
I'd buy him drinks. I'd be like, come on, man, like give me more,
They're taking notes.
Right. Yeah, because it's like you're right. It's like when it's coming from a place of ignorance, it's just lame. It's just like it's just tired, and it's masturbatory, But if it's when it's coming from a place of like actual experience, then you can say like, well, maybe this person has insights, even though they're black pilled and they're bitching about it and stuff. At least they have some insights. And
well,
I think
there's also, I have limited tolerance for that too, though. Like, I mean,
well, sure.
If someone's just like, they've been here 20 years and they're just like, and they're fluent in the language and they're just complaining about it, like, bro, why don't you find a different place to go?
If you don't like it,
I already learned Korean, man. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I like kimchi. That's the one thing that's good. Kimchi's great. I gotta stay.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. I hadn't really put those two thoughts together because I always conflate the two groups as one. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like the foreigners and the Koreans, but there is all these different I guess these different spaces that you can exist in. And even me, I wouldn't put myself in like that. I'm in a weird bubble because I do feel like I've learned some insights into the culture. And yet I still think there's just so much that I don't know because of the linguistic, ocean that exists.
Right, but Jack, I think that's the reason. And I'm speaking for Kevin here too, but you're a nice guy. Everybody likes Jack. It's a thing. Everybody likes Jack. It's true. And I think it's because of this, like it's in your personality. You give people the benefit of the doubt. And I think it just extends right to this. It's like you're cognizant of it. You're like, hey, I don't quite grasp everything that's going on around me. So I'm not going to be offended by that because I'm not able to, and it can irritate me momentarily, but I'm not going to take that to bed and be like, ruminating on this because I don't quite know what was going on there. I feel like I try to keep that type of mentality and attitude. There's plenty of things that happen to me and I think, wow, that seemed like that guy was being pretty damn racist to me, or look at, but I don't quite grasp the nuance of it. So I give the benefit of the doubt until I know better. I try to.
Right. And that does come with experience of just living here for a long time. It's like it's a parabola, right? When you first get here, everything is just like rose-colored glasses, man. It's like, this is beautiful, man. It's so cool how they do things. And then your frustration level reaches just like an apex and you're just, you're ready to just scream. And then I think if you just hang in there long enough, even if you don't learn the language, or whatever, you kind of mellow out again. You kind of sand off those rough edges. And like you said, you just kind of go like, yeah, that's, that might be the perception is that Itaewon is all foreigners spreading a bunch of COVID and drinking too much and puking everywhere. But I know that's not true, and eventually that knowledge is going to seep into the mainstream Korean culture. It's just that it might be those stereotypes are hard to put to sleep.
Yeah, but can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I think maybe not, because you assumed the guy in the bathtub, I'm bringing it back around. You assumed the guy in the bathtub was a foreigner. You're like, debaucherous behavior, foreigner.
Right. I don't know why I thought that. Yeah, that's terrible. It really is. Yeah. It's like,
I was so happy to see it wasn't a foreigner. I was so happy when I saw that. Yeah,
of course.
So I feel the same way.
I picture him as just like a merry, jolly, like guy. Like there's no like weird perversion to it. It's just a totally innocent, like what could make this Zoom class better? A bubble bath, you know what I mean? Like what the hell? Why not? Like it makes everything better, So I can kind of I don't even have a bathtub in my house. So I was jealous just right off that, I'm like, I don't even have a tub.
I take some comforts working from home. Like a lot of my lectures I do sitting. I've got the whiteboard, but when I'm sitting, like I've got, my running pants on, jogging pants, nice and comfy, nice and soft, I've got my little station set up here. I got all my tea over here. And like, maybe this guy is just really creative. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to turn this shit up to 11. Bubble bath.
Yes. Because I bought two tracksuits on AliExpress when I realized that like COVID was this wasn't just a one semester. I dress like Tony Soprano when I teach, basically. I minus the gold necklace or whatever. It's because when you're sitting in in front of a screen, you want to be comfortable. It's only a little square right there, so I don't know. Yeah. Kev, what about you though? You dress up for your Zoom class?
Brian, you wear like a proper top, don't you? Or do you wear what
I started, and because of COVID, I keep all my suits in the office because I used to bike to work and then I would change my clothes. So in the office, I have everything. So when I get my dry cleaning, it goes all the way to the office. So when COVID hit, I had one tie and like two button downs here, and that was it. And the effort to go to campus, I'm just lazy. I have to cross the river. It's like 9K, and I didn't feel like it. Plus COVID, I didn't want to go to campus. And so I just kind of kicked the ball, and it was like, I'm the hoodie professor. I wear a hoodie like Yeah. So Kev, I saw some of your videos. You had like a proper nice suit. Like you wore the bow tie, the jacket.
The beginning of it, I was suiting up. These days, I just wear a button-up shirt. I don't do the tie anymore. But the beginning of it, yeah, I was, but I was still in my pajama shorts. So
yeah, you're still wearing like the
yeah.
basketball shorts with the like the sportscaster guy that's Fox Sports.
I got up between classes today and I walked upstairs and my mother-in-law was just like, wow, you kind of look like a professor. And then she looked at my legs and she's like, hold on a second.
Business on top, party on the bottom, kind of.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's how I. Yeah,
sartorial mullet. Is that what they call that?
I dress up at least a little bit. I do dress up for class, but that's something just which is interesting about Korea. It's totally off topic, but how much professors dress up here as well, just in general. I mean, think about what your professors wore. It was like Birkenstocks, jeans, and like a mullet. And it's just comfortable. Like professors in the States don't wear. I had one professor in my major who wore a suit, and all of us were just like, "What's up with that dude? Why does he wear a suit? That's just so weird."
Especially in Arizona, right? Did you went to school in Arizona?
I went to Northern Arizona University.
Oh, okay. So it's not as hot as it's not like Phoenix, right? Like it's not.
No, it's not as hot. It's up in the mountains, but it's a hippie school as well. So that's another reason we've got the Birkenstocks and jeans.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then here you've got like all professors are proper suited up.
Yeah, not just like professional wear. I never thought about that. Like my professors, they would wear nice clothes. Some had suits, some not. Most not. Most had like teacher outfit, the default thing your high school teachers would wear. Like a nice button down, occasionally a tie, could be even jeans, but the shirt's tucked in, like.
Yeah, the shirt would be tucked in. This is true.
Yeah, there's like all these little details, like like business attire, business casual. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, kind of like business casual minus one, just a little bit.
But yeah, like
one Korea, step down from business casual.
Yeah.
All the professors. Yeah, I mean it's like across the board. I mean everybody's wearing suits. There's jackets. Mm-hmm. There's
full on. Yeah, well, and so I started suiting up here. Ryan, you were suiting up well before I was. I picked it up then a couple of years later. But yeah, I proper suit up now at uni, and it's weird.
When I came to the country, the first place I lived, I had a friend that told me I should move to Itaewon because that's where he was living, and that was my one connection. I had no idea what Itaewon really was at the time, and so when I moved there, the timing was such that I had a big window of time before class started. And I was exploring, and that the first part of Itaewon Strip, it's all suits.
I got a suit. I got an Itaewon suit too. Yeah.
It was like the first thing I found. And I was like, I'm just poking around. I got my coffee and it's like, oh, cool. And this guy kind of calls me and I'm like, all right, see what's going on. And he starts quoting these prices. Prices are great. In the fabric, excellent.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this guy $1,000, just see what happens. Bam. I've got like 2 nice suits. I got the full pants. I got shirts. I think those are tailored shirts. I mean, this is a long time ago, but I think they were like $40 a piece.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Back in the day, if you have 40, $50 for a tailored shirt. But my suit was only, I got a suit for 200, but this is way back. This is before you came here. So this is, back in the day. It might be, I'm not sure what the quality level is now for that $200 suit, but I know that it's hasn't come out of my closet in, I don't know, 9 years or 10 years. I don't know. They'll probably just bury me in that suit, Yeah. I guess to bring this like full circle, I guess my last question was, I mean, do you guys feel responsible for like the bad behavior of other foreigners? Like, do you get that? Like if the guy taking the bath were a foreigner, if he were a foreigner, do you feel that, do you get that like a little like I don't know, just like just a little bit of a gut punch kind of feeling? Is like, we've made all this progress, things were going well, and then somebody comes along and just like screw, you know what I mean, like takes us a couple steps back? Or is that just like not a real thing? I mean, is that just,
I kind of can see that. For me, I think it's a little bit more of the opposite. When I see something in the news that we would stereotypically, or that the that might stereotypically be assigned as a foreigner thing. The biggest example that I can think of are when I see drug busts in the news here, because a bunch of years ago it was always like, oh, it's the foreigners that are bringing the drugs in, blah, blah, blah. But almost every drug bust I've seen in the news here in the past few years has been Korean citizens who are either smuggling in or growing it or whatever they're doing. And whenever I see that, it's more of a sigh of relief that it's like, oh, I'm glad it wasn't a foreigner, and I'm glad that it is a Korean that did it, because then it's just becoming less and less likely that the next time it happens, people will assume that it's a foreigner for whatever the random thing is. So it's not so much that although if I do see a foreigner doing something dumb, it's just like, it's a little bit of a, I don't know that dude, and I like go to the other side of the subway. But it's not that bad as much. It's just, I'm glad when I see Koreans making the mistakes that were assigned to foreigners, I think more.
Yeah. I'd like to be able to believe that, like with this case with this guy in the bathtub, I would like to believe that had it been a foreigner, I would feel the same way. Like, this was dumb, pretty funny, probably, I don't know what, just get a kind of crack up about it. But I think, to be honest, I'm probably biased. If it was a foreigner, in the back of my mind, I wouldn't find it as humorous.
Okay.
It would irritate. Yeah, and
it would kind of irritate you a little bit, kind of like that. Yeah. Like, God dang it, we made this progress, and then,
Yeah, I think if I had to be honest with myself, I would be like, yeah, it's not funny. I hope like there's consequences for him. I mean, this guy probably, I think he needs consequences too. Come on, this is not professional behavior. It's not good right, in general. Yeah. Like, if this was at our university or something, I would hope that there would be some type of consequence. But yeah, I think I'm a little bit biased because I don't want to be associated with crap like that.
Yeah.
Fair.
Well, I think we kind of covered a lot of ground, but I like where this one went. So this is a really interesting one. I have no idea what the title of this episode is going to be. Well, bubble bath. There we go. That's there it is.
No one's ready for that.
Bubble bath and Halloween.
Yeah, guys. Thanks again for getting together for another podcast. It's great to have both of you, all three of us together again. And all our listeners out there, you guys know where you can find us. We're on all the major platforms. I think the easiest way to get to us is to go to our website. It's thesoulpatch.com. And I don't care what anyone says. Puns are awesome. It's SEOUL, thesoulpatch.com. And if you go there, you can also get to our YouTube channel, where we've got a YouTube channel called The Soul Patch Podcast, and you can just type that in and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can see us and listen to us at the same time if you want to on YouTube. And
we are not in the bath, I swear.
I'm not taking a bath.
Should we do a bath episode one of these days?
We could do. I got
our 100th episode.
All right, yeah. We said we would read the first email that we get, and our 100th episode we'll do a bath episode.
We go to
three separate baths, right?
Episode. Oh, we could do. I was saying we go to a pension. We can do, because we haven't talked about. That's another topic coming up. Yes. We're waiting for Kev to come back. We're going to talk about pensions, and we're going to talk about travel and the smart ways and the fun ways to maximize getting around Korea and having a blast. That's going to be coming up. We could do that one from pension.
Yeah, we got to do a pension episode for sure. And we could. And from some of the pensions have hot tubs, right? So
I was just that
hot tub episode. All right. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week.
I like to pay a couple respects to the people that made me what I am today.
Nothing gear.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
The quiet man.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Dopamine. Jim.
It's all my love. It's all my love. It's all my love.
The brain.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Hey, Bobby.
Let the bass go.
call me a diamond on.